Hey Navajo Nighthawks, this is Module 5, Lesson 15. In this lesson, we are going to continue to compare two fractions, but today we're going to work on finding common units or common denominators to compare those fractions. So our objective is I will be able to find common units or number of units to compare to fractions. So in the last lesson, we were using that number line and we were plotting our numbers on the number line to compare. Today, we are going to work with using area models to create common denominators. And probably the quickest way to make common denominators is to multiply your two denominators by each other. Because so like our first one here, we have 1/2 is less than 2/3. So they took 2 times 3 and converted their 1/2 and their 2/3 into 6. So 1/2 times 3 gave them 3/6. So if we shade in that 3/6, just for that little bit more of a visual. And then they took their other fraction of 2/3 and multiplied their denominator and numerator by 2 to make 4/6. So then they can, excuse me, kind of like I was talking yesterday, it's easier to compare apples to apples instead of apples to oranges. So if you have 6 and 6, 3/6, 4/6, that's easier to see that 1/2 is less than 2/3. Okay. And then in the area models, it gives you that visual. They're both working into 6. Then you can see that 4/6 is more than 3/6. Okay. So let's do one together. All right. So when we multiply our denominator and denominators by each other, if we first show our 4/5 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is my 4/5. And if you multiply it by 4, think about when we were doing this back in our first couple lessons, then you break it apart into 4 rows, right? So if we go 1, 2, 3, then that gives us that 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. In the area model, you guys, we won't always have to use. We always start with the visual and then we work our way to where we're just using the math. So if that's a little bit confusing for you, don't worry. All right, so let's show if we take 4/5 and we multiply our numerator and denominator by our other denominator of 4. We're going to take 4 times 4 and 5 times 4. What does that create? So 4 times 4 is 16. 5 times 4 is 20. So 16 20ths is our new fraction there. So then we're going to also have to take our 3/4 and we're going to multiply it by 5. So 3/4 times 5. Remember, you can do this on paper. Probably be a lot quicker on paper. So 3 times 5 gives us 15. And 4 times 5 gives us 20. So now we can quickly, easily compare those two fractions. So 4/5 is equal to 16 20ths. 3/4 is equal to 15 20ths. 16 is larger than 15. So that's going to mean our 4/5 is greater than 3/4. And then if you want to shade in those area models to show the difference, it's going to be pretty hard to do and take a lot of time on here. So I'm more worried about you seeing that math, but if you want to double check it with the area model, go for it. But I don't want to take all that time to do that shading in. Okay, so let's do our next one. 3/5 and 4/7. So if we have our three, remember we're going to multiply our denominators by each other. So we're going to be doing 3/5 times 7, because that is the opposite denominator. We will eventually get to a point where we're not multiplying. We're finding a common number, but for now, this is what we're doing. So 3/5, we're going to take our numerator and denominator by the opposite denominator, which is 7, times 7 gives us 7 times 3 is 21. 5 times 7 is 35. So 21/35. Okay. And then we're going to take our 4/7 and we're going to convert that to 35. So we're going to take 4/7 and we're going to multiply our numerator and denominator by 5. So 4/7, I'm going to do this one down here, is equal to, we're going to take it times 5 times 5. So 4 times 5 gives us 20. And 7 times 5 gives us that 35. So now we can look at our common denominators. 21/35, 20/35. So that's going to mean 3/5 is greater than 4/7, because when we compare them with common denominators, 3/5 is just a little bit larger. So 3/5 is greater than 4/7. And again, if you want to do the area models, you can. But that's just a lot of dragging, shading, crossing out. It'd be a lot easier to draw it on paper. So if you want to draw it on paper to double check, or you can just use this multiplication. And same thing when you guys get to your practice pages, if you just show me the multiplication, that's 100% fine. All right. 3/7 and 2/6. So we're going to take 3/7, multiply it by our opposite denominator of 6. So 3/7. We're going to multiply top and bottom, numerator and denominator, by 6. So 3 times 6 gives us 18. Basic facts are going to get a good little reboot doing this. 7 times 6 gives us 42. So 3/7 is equivalent to 18/42. It's a large denominator, but that's okay. And then we're going to do the same thing to our 2/6. We're going to multiply it by 7. So 2/6. We're going to multiply our numerator and denominator by 7, creating that common denominator. So then we can compare. So 2 times 7 gives us 14. We already know that 6 times 7 is 42. So now we can compare. 14/42 or 18/42. So 3/7 is larger than 2/6. Okay. You could also think, okay, well, if I multiply 7 times 6, that gives me 42. You can do the whole thought process, but when you lay it out like this, it's a little bit easier to see. Okay, so really see what we're doing. All right, we'll do, let's see, 2 more, I think. We'll do 2 more. All right, so 5/8, 6/9. 5/8. I'm going to take our numerator and denominator, times it by 9. This is going to give us a large one as well, a large denominator. Times 9, times 9. All right, 5 times 9 gives us 45. 8 times 9 gives us 72. So 5/9 is equal to 45 70-seconds. And then we're going to take our 6/9 and multiply it by 8. 6/9 times 8. So we know our denominator is going to be 72. So you think, well, what is 6 times 8? And you're going to be able to compare a little bit quicker if you know those facts really quick. So 6 times 8 we know is 48. 9 times 8 gave us 72. So now we can compare. So 6/9 is equal to 48 70-seconds. 5/8 is equal to 45 70-seconds. So then that means that 6/9 is larger than 5/8. Like I mentioned, we won't always make such a large number for our denominators. We can find smaller numbers that are common between the two, but that'll come later. All right, last one. 2/3 and 3/12. So we're going to take our 2/3, 3 times 4, which is going to give us 12. 2 times 4, 3 times 4. It's going to give us 8/12. And then we need to convert our 3/4 to 12. So 3/4, we're going to multiply numerator and denominator by 3. Which is going to give us 9. Whoops. 9/12. Not sure why there's a 0 there. Ignore the 0. 9/12. So 3/4 is a little bit bigger than 2/3. So 3/4 is equivalent to 9/12, not 90. I can't delete that for some reason. And 2/3 is equal to 8/12. So 3/4 is just a little bit larger than 2/3. Okay. And like I said, if you want to draw those area models out to help you visualize the comparison, that's fine. But we're really trying to get to that multiplication and division to make common denominators to compare. And it's a little bit quicker, a little bit easier if we just multiply our denominators by each other. So whatever our denominators are, we're going to take 2/3 times 4 and then 3/4 times 3. That's going to give us that common denominator, and then it's easier to compare. Okay. All right, you guys, great job. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing, but we'll really work on it in small groups this week as well. Okay. Great job. Have a great day, and we will see you soon.